Hey guys, we're back, and I'm going to take a few minutes to show you how we can make a animation in the background using the built-in features of Unity. There are huge advantages to this. When Luke built the game using some animations from Anime Studio, they were so big that in fact the game was too large to be uploaded into the Google Play Store. The Google Play has a 50 meg limit, and our game hit 112 pretty easily. So we made some changes to the game, used the built-in animator in Unity, and saved a ton of space. We got it from 112 megs down to 23, and it did the exact same thing. So let's say, for example, we wanted to make an animation of a landfill. We would start by doing a Google search for images on landfills, and lots of images will pop up. And we can grab we want to grab an image that's got a background that is really consistent, and that will make it easier for us to pull things apart. Now, this image here is perfect. So let's go ahead and actually, that one's got a little pull to it. Let's see if we can find one that's even better. In the game, let's go back and take a look here. The kids really like this one when we're doing it at home. So let's grab that image there. See how that's got a consistent blue background? That's just what we need. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to save this image. So in order to save the image, or actually, this one works out well. Let's go ahead and do that. So this gives us an opportunity to download a high-resolution photo. So that was really nice of the Air Force to let us use an image like this. So now I'm going to Control-click, save the image as. I'm just going to save it as landfill.jpg. I'm going to put it on the desktop, and that's actually, I'm not sure that went to the desktop. Looks like that went someplace else. So let's just open it up out of downloads. That'll be a little bit easier. Okay, the landfill JPEG, and I'm going to drag that into Photoshop. So it's going to open up in Photoshop right now. If you don't have Photoshop, you can do this in a lot of other ways, but Photoshop is really the easiest way to do this that I know. So we'll always have for the team at least one computer with Photoshop on it so that we can do things like what we're about to do. So here we go. This is our image that we want to work with. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move it over just a little bit. I'm going to shrink it down just a little bit so you can see it better. So that's our image. And I'm going to zoom in just a little bit on our image so that you can see what I'm about to do next. So you should be able to see here that the image is pretty big. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the magnetic lasso. I'm going to trace the edges of this image, and what it's doing is it's looking for a contrast, a sharp contrast in color. And you notice this is a complicated shape, so I'm not trying to get all of the yellow bars because those will be a lot harder because they're thin for the magnetic lasso to pick out. I'm focusing on the big pieces of the outline of the shape of this front-end loader. And what this magnetic lasso is going to enable us to do is we are going to make a layer that is we're going to separate the truck from the rest of this shape, from the rest of this image. And then we're going to fill in the blue sky where the truck used to be. And you'll see this takes a Takes a little bit of time, but not that much time. I'm going to move my layer tool out of the way. Oops, lost my image, so I'll redo that. And you can see here that even if you have to redo it, it doesn't take long. It's okay. Things rarely go perfectly. And if we were doing this for a finished version of the game, we would want to go really slow. We might even want to pull chunks of the image out so that we can really fine-tune it. And we could do that, but that would take much more time than I think is worth in this video. I think if you guys get motivated to do something really kind of impressive like that, you guys can choose to do that if you wish. I would encourage you to do it. I just don't know that making the video that long is going to help. So here we go. You can see that the lasso is kind of pulling along those outer edges. And over here, you can see that I'm moving it a little bit too to try to get the shape of the front end loader here. And there we go. So now that whole image is selected. And what we're going to do, we're going to go up to Image, Layer, New, via Copy. And I'm going to name this layer Truck. And the reason it's so important, or front end loader, the reason it's so important to name that and keep it separate is so that you can recognize it. So now what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to grab a section of this blue sky that we like, and I'm going to click on the stamp tool. I'm going to click over here on select. I'm going to grab a nice piece of sky. I'm going to grab on the stamp tool. Okay. Alright guys, so here we go. We've got the stamp tool selected, and we're going to option click on a space, and now whatever we paint will be that color, and we're just going to erase this whole image. Just double checking that we're not erasing anything we need. And you can see here that it looks like our selection wasn't quite perfect, and that's okay.
There's nothing like Gold Peak's home.
Oh boy, there we go. An ad we didn't want, imagine that. Alright, here we go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to shrink my tool down a little bit to do some finer detail work. So, 1 second, honey. I'm going to option click again up here. There we go, getting rid of those antenna up there. Oops. Picked up the wrong thing. It picked up a little bit of sky. Now we're just smoothing out that landscape so it looks okay. Okay, so now if we put our truck in, we can see it there. If we take it out, we can see it there. Background is a good name for this. That works. And again, this is front end loader. And the reason we want to save that information is that we can use a Photoshop document directly in Unity, which is a big help for a lot of the things that we're working on. So we use the stamp tool to get rid of our image. That looks pretty good. Now we're going to save our image, and we're going to save these separately, which we can do by turning them on separately. So that's no big deal. Or actually, we're going to bring in the layers individually. So in order to do that, we're going to save it as Photoshop. We're going to put it on desktop. Does not need to be in there. There we go. Perfect. So now we're going to go into Unity, grab our Finder, and we should have a landfill PSD file. Looks like this. We're going to go into our sprites. I'm going to drag that file right in. And let's see here if it gives us 2 images. It does not. So that was not what we had wanted. And that's just fine. Let's go ahead and delete that. Let's go back into Photoshop and we'll export this. One second, hon. Save it as a PNG file. We don't want that to be a landfill. We want it to be the front end loader. Click Save. Now we're going to turn that layer off and save this one. Save as landfill background. Make it a PNG as well. And now import them both rather into Unity. Let's go over into Unity, pull up our Finder, and we've got our landfill background PNG. And we have our front end loader PNG. Great. And they would appear to be the same. So let's remake our front end loader and be sure that we had our layers turned on right. There's our front end loader. So save it as front end PNG. Might have needed to have selected that layer there. Let's see. There we go. That worked just fine. So now what we're going to do is we are going to grab, we're going to go to Create, New. Let's see here. And you guys probably figured out at this point that if we run the animation, it is in fact looping, but it's taking so long to loop that we'll see it about once every 10 seconds. So if we wanted it to go through more quickly than that, what we need to do is change our samples again. So there it goes again. It is looping. So let's make those, let's say it's 30 frames a second, or 30 samples, and we can see that it kind of zips through. And that doesn't look quite right, so let's put it on 20, see if 20 is better. 20 is pretty good. 15 might be better still. That looks pretty good. That's good. And then there's a lot of downtime in our animation. So if we wanted to go back and edit that, we could go back and look at our points. We can see them all there. And what we might want to do is go ahead and resample this if we wanted. Let's bring it through every 2 seconds. Let's see what that looks like. So there's a lot of dead time here. Did we miss a keyframe somewhere? No, we didn't. So we could play with this some more if we wanted to get it just right. But I think this will do the trick. I thought that 15 was better than 30. And we could, if we wanted to, grab some of these keyframes, and if we wanted to tweak them a little bit, we can just move them in. Just like that. You notice there's one keyframe for each object. We'll just drag these through and see how that looks. And if we like it, we'll keep it. And if we don't, we won't. And the great thing about making your own games and animating is that you can move stuff around until it's just the way you want it because you're the boss. Let's try that. That's pretty quick. So let's change our samples to 10 and slow it down. With our frames closer together. That's pretty quick. So I think what we could do to speed it up a little bit, if we wanted to, was at the beginning, you'll notice here how there's not a lot going on. So let's go ahead, go back to here. Let's see, where is our front end loader? Our front end loader is way over there. So let's bring that a lot closer. And at this frame, let's bring it right to there. Likewise to there. You get the idea. We're just making some adjustments to make this feel better, to be a little more efficient with its time. That's far enough over there. And let's just get rid of these points. I don't know that those points here are helping us any. And let's make this, let's give that a try. Let's see what that looks like. That looks much better, doesn't it? I think that's what we're going to stick with. So, I'm going to turn off the play and off the pause. So we've now got our animation the way we like it. So we're going to go back into our prefabs. We're going to delete our old prefab and drag down our new prefab. We're going to delete our game object and bring our prefab back in, and let's play it and see if we like how it looks. Give it a second to load and to play. Let's take a look at what's going on with our controller here. So we can see our animation is just fine. Let's go into our zoom in a little bit to get a better view. Let's make the front end loader layer 1. Put this layer 0, that's fine. Let's play our game. And we're not seeing what we expected to see. You guys probably already figured out that the problem, if we go back into our front end loader, child of our landfill background, our animator wasn't turned on. So by clicking that on and hitting play, we're going to get our animation. There we go. And the reason it's not on by default is so that you can control it manually. So that's how we make our background animation. And we've made a prefab of it. Now, if we go back, our prefab, we're going to delete it. And the reason we're going to delete it and bring down our new prefab is that we want to make sure that our animator is in fact on. So I'm going to drag that down, and this is just going to play in the background. So we'll delete it here. And we could go into any level we wanted and drag this in, press play, and we will get the front end loader driving through the scene, just like that. And that kind of makes it more interesting for the user to see, and it's fun for you guys to learn. So to recap, we went onto the internet, and we found an image that we liked from the Air Force. I can't pull it up right now, but we know where it was. We brought that into Photoshop. We made 2 layers, and we used 2 tools to make those layers. We used the magnetic lasso, which is up here, and then we used the stamp cloning tool, and we used the stamp cloning tool to paint away the front end loader, and we used the magnetic lasso to pull the loader out of the scene. We then imported all of those objects, those 2 objects rather, independently into Unity. We then made an animation, and the process of making an animation was very much like the process of making the animation for Anime Studio. And we can see here that the front end loader is what holds the animation file. It's the child of the landfill background. We made a prefab of the landfill background so that we can drag it into anything we want. So that is how we make that background image.